Thanks, everyone. Heavy going? We good? All right, 2 questions. First of all, has anyone here ever heard of Island Pharmaceuticals? Okay, testing knowledge. Keep your hands up if you actually own stock in the company. Okay, so I know where you are, all right. And thanks. It's a pleasure to talk about this business. Island is actually not operating like a traditional biotech that you would purchase, that you would know. Actually moving from urgency and precision of a company stepping directly into US biodefence. 6 months is not long in biotech, but it is with Island. Secured an FDA alignment on a coveted Animal Rule approval pathway. It's a pathway that's so accelerated and so rare, it's been granted only 17 times in the last 25 years. We've opened the door to a $300 million priority review voucher when we get approval, and most critically, just secured a research agreement with the US military's premier high-containment infectious disease laboratory. The team that will be testing our product in the coming quarter are responsible for developing medical defences against biological warfare and the world's deadliest pathogens. In the next quarter, the team at USAMRIID, which is the name if people don't understand what that group is, they'll begin our Galidesivir dose optimisation study. It's an asset we've only had for 10 months, but it's a 10-year-old asset, so lots of data has been gained on this already. And the program will be against Marburg Angola, which essentially is the world's most deadly virus. Everyone's heard of Ebola, not everyone's heard of Marburg. Marburg is more deadly than Ebola. And Galidesivir has already delivered survival outcomes in Marburg and Ebola that almost no other antiviral on the planet has ever achieved. And this upcoming program in animals will actually lead us towards a pivotal study in, again, non-human primates, no phase 2 or phase 3 human efficacy studies. Think about the number of years that takes. We have animal studies because no one can give someone Marburg and test to see whether it works. So animals are the best way to judge. So from a point of view of investors, the next 10 minutes or so, 12 minutes and 18 seconds, please hold off going to morning tea, and you'll see why this is really an amazing company and with amazing assets. Island has 2 very well progressed assets. The first is in dengue. It's called ILA 101. It's already been through phase 2A studies to show that it's actually a very, very effective prophylactic in case you get, or preventative, I don't like prophylactic, preventative for people that actually get exposed to dengue virus. Very, very good. And then Galidesivir is the asset we acquired 10 months ago from BioCryst. They did so much work on the asset, but they hadn't done anything for the last 3 or 4 years. We picked that up 10 months ago. And we are actively advancing through the FDA's Animal Rule. As I said, very rare and very fast. In terms of our company, it's there. You can see our substantial shareholders, of which I am one of them. We're very, very heavily aligned to making sure we get a result. And we achieve a great result for investors. So you can imagine a lot of people stand up and say they're committed, but they don't have a holding. Our directors all have a holding in this company. So as I mentioned, Galidesivir, although it's very hard to say, I know, but it's actually a very, very potent and broad spectrum antiviral. For those people following the Ebola outbreak and why Bundibugyo is not able to be used with anything in the US stockpile of drugs, it's because they're very specific strain products that are in that stockpile. They only work on Ebola Zaire. Ebola Bundibugyo is the same family, but it's different. So the asset there won't work. It means people are on their own with standard of care. There is a growing security challenge. Stockpile in the US, it's about $10 or $15 billion. They've got lots of drugs in there, specifically for what they call Category A biothreats. There are only 6 of those biothreats, from anthrax to devastating smallpox to Ebola and Marburg. There's only one gap in that 6 number category A's, and that's Marburg. There is no countermeasure for Marburg infection. And people say, well, it doesn't matter because people get these diseases in countries that I don't even know about. The problem is not that. The problem is that Marburg has a very hard shell around its virus. It's called an envelope virus, and it can be aerosolized and put into a bioweapon and released anywhere with a crowd of people. And if that happened here today, not that it would, if that happened here today, then you'd all have less than 14 days to live with no countermeasure. And you can imagine that scares the hell out of people that know this has been weaponized back at the Cold War. It's still around. And it's easy to get hold of a virus than it is a nuclear bomb. So think about that. There is no, and it's called filoviruses, Ebola, Marburg, Sudan virus. They're called filoviruses. Very nasty, very nasty. All the existing countermeasures are strain-specific. There's no broad spectrum in the stockpile. There's no approved therapeutics for Marburg, for Ebola, Bundibugyo, or Sudan virus, the 3 worst viruses known to humans. And outbreaks now increasingly involving divergent strains, things that are different. The stockpile lacks a countermeasure of this kind. And they know. The US government spent $600 million trying to find a solution for Marburg. We believe we have one. We already have data in NHPs, non-human primates, not people, that shows 94% survival in Marburg Musoki strain. There are 2 main strains, Musoki and Angola. We've already done 1 strain. 94% survival, you see these squiggly lines, focus on the ones at the top. 94% survival, 18 animals, 17 survived, 1 didn't, but in placebo you'll see in red, everything died inside of 12 days. That's what we're dealing with, not just with animals, humans, and this is direct data that correlates with humans. Ebola, similar program, similar study. 2 days after infection, even 3 days after infection, this drug saves. Placebo, no chance. That's what we're talking about here. We already have data in multiple strains. We have in vitro data across Sudan, Ebola, and Marburg showing it is the most effective at killing virus in a test tube than anything else. We've all got animal models in 2 of those viruses to show how effective it is. What we need to show is Marburg, Angola. That's the one we have to show, and that's what we're doing right now. As I mentioned, FDA's aligned with us. They say, yes, this is a dangerous virus. It can happen anywhere. You have an animal rule approval, as I say, 17 times in 25 years. The first time it was used was for the anthrax attacks in the US in 2001, because the US government decided that we can't risk having these things that no one ever gets suddenly thrust into our faces and killing people. And that's why the animal rule was created. We have clear guidance on our program, and we have, as I said, an agreement that we sent out an announcement yesterday with the premier lab in the US military to run the study for us. And we qualify for a priority review voucher. For those that haven't heard of these before, if you have a drug that's under priority review and it's for a tropical disease of high unmet need, you have a voucher from the FDA on your approval that allows you to sell this as an asset. The last sales were $200 million US, the last 4 sales of a PRV to other companies. They buy them because they get extra time to sell their drug. So small companies love them because they're a large monetization event, and it's free, so free for purchase. So for us, it's great. This is the pathway that I'm talking about. I've worked in pharmaceuticals almost my entire life. I've been in pharma for 35 years, 20 years with J&J. I've seen more studies than anyone, and these studies in humans take a very long time. You have to get them in, you've got to recruit them, you've got to stop dropouts, you've got to try and keep them on the whole study, you've got to wait till the end, and then the end, and then the end, and get data, and then you present it, and by then it's like 10 years has passed. This is completely not like that. The reason why I have a large shareholding, and I bought over 4 years of stock on market to build the shareholding I have, is because I believe this company has something. They have two assets that are highly valuable and very, very quick in terms of biotech. We intend to make money. We intend to return large dividends to shareholders. We only have 300 million shares on issue. We get a $300 million PRV. What's that mean for a stock that's only valued at the moment at 35 cents a share? And we're talking about end of 2027. We're talking about a year from now. And yet people don't understand what I'm telling you now because they just don't hear me talk about it very much. But the shortened time here is incredible. Everyone tries to say, we've got priority review, we've got accelerator, we've got breakthrough designation. It's like, that's all crap compared to what an animal rule provides. Supremely fast, the most effective, accelerated and fastest review the FDA can ever do. And we now have an agreement with this military lab and their biosecurity level 4 laboratory where all the nastiest diseases are being checked. This is where they're going to start this study next quarter. We'll have data on days 1 and 2 after infection to show how effective this drug is in non-human primates before the end of the year. That'll progress us forward. That's how quickly we can do things. The study itself is only 30 days in length. You have to train the monkeys to sit down and stay still and accept a catheter and things like that. But the study itself is 30 days. And you know, because the outcome is survival. You know the outcome really quickly. You don't have to wait for 10,000 people to look over your data and see whether it's worthwhile. This is so super fast. No other biotech in the country has this, anything like this. And the animal rule, most importantly, it's only the second last slide, I've got 3 minutes to go, I'm doing great. It's a very, very proven pathway to success. The reason for that is when the government agrees that this is an animal rule approval and it's a deadly disease that hardly ever hits anyone outside of very, very remote locations. If it does happen and there's no countermeasure, there needs to be something in what they call the US Strategic National Stockpile, just in case. And that's the value. The last 8 animal rule approvals are here, bless you. The last 8 animal rules approvals are here. All but one of them is still on an ongoing contract with the US government. One purchaser, one deal, replenishment and replenishment and replenishment. There's a $100 million one there that was a one-off, and that was for anaphylaxis as an emergency countermeasure. Everything else is ongoing. And the value of that to us is like every other pharma company, unlike every other pharma company, that overestimates their launch, has a whole lot of product sitting around that goes off, expires, and then when they finally do get going, they can't keep up. We have a guaranteed sale to the US government for as long as the expiry lasts, in this case 2 years. Every 2 years there's replenishment. And they don't want to use the drug because that means if they use it, it means something terrible has happened. But every 2 years you have a guaranteed purchaser. And the average of the products that have been there since 2012 is $467 million. This is an ongoing business. A lot of these are off patent. Doesn't matter. The government will still procure them because they're the company that did the work. They've got the rule, they got the approval. No generic will displace them for as long as that need is there. And as I mentioned, the most important thing for us, the government spent over $500 million on multiple companies, multiple products, trying to find that last piece for the Category A biothreat they can't counter. The most weaponizable, the most available. And we have, we believe, an answer to that. So why Galidesivir? Broad acting, the broadest acting antiviral in the world right now. And we believe the only one that will effectively treat the Ebola outbreak that's happening right now. There are lots of drugs being looked at, but no one has the spectrum that we have in filoviruses. Nothing. Demonstrated activity, strong efficacy after exposure. 2-3 days after, you can still survive. Otherwise, Marburg, 88% kill rate. Ebola, between 50 and 90% kill rate, Sudan, 47% kill rate. There's no escaping these things if people get exposed. There needs to be a countermeasure. And it's already been developed. Galidesivir itself's already been developed with $70 million from the US government to get where it is. So we expect a lot more coming forward. Thank you very much.